Hello and welcome. You are watching World Business Report here on News 9 Live. I'm Krishna Kumar. We begin with France, which has claimed the top spot in the latest Henley Passport Index, while India has slipped just one place to the 85th spot despite an increase in visa-free travel options for Indian passport holders. The Henley Passport Index, which draws from data provided by the International Air Transport Association or IATA, highlights key shifts in global passport power. Despite efforts by countries like Iran, Malaysia and Thailand to offer visa-free entry to Indian tourists, India's ranking has seen a decline. Meanwhile, the United States of America saw an improvement in its ranking, advancing from the 7th to the 6th position. Notably, this occurred despite the ongoing debate surrounding its anti-immigration stance, which remains a divisive topic leading up to the upcoming US presidential elections. The Henley Passport Index remains a comprehensive resource covering 199 passports and 227 destinations across the world, shedding light on the evolving landscape of international travel freedom. Away from that to a light-hearted exchange, Nothing's CEO Carl Pei, now known as Elon Bhai on social media, playfully embraced Indian culture after a banter with a user named Raman. Following this, Carl Bhai suggested that Elon Musk should follow suit amidst buzz of a Tesla factory being set up in India. He tweeted, "At Elon Musk, did you really think you could build a Tesla factory in India without changing your username to Elon Bhai?" The Nothing phone is set to launch globally on the 5th of March, the Nothing Phone 2A, that is, with the actor Ranveer Singh from India reportedly joining the campaign. Company accounts on X now sport Bhai as the surname as well. Meanwhile, India's potential deal with Tesla, hinted at by media reports, could see electric cars in the country by the end of the year 2024, despite no plans for tax cuts on imports, according to the Indian Parliament's recent disclosure. Now, amid allegations of election rigging and calls for a judicial probe into manipulation, social media platform X is experiencing prolonged disruptions in Pakistan for the third consecutive day. The outrage, tracked by Down Detector, affected major cities like Karachi, Rawalpindi, Lahore and Gujranwala in Pakistan. The situation intensified after Rawalpindi's Commissioner Liaquat Ali Chatta resigned, alleging involvement in rigging against Imran Khan's PTI party. This disclosure triggered demands for an election audit and sparked protests as well. Critics condemned the disruption, highlighting its impact on democratic rights and Pakistan's economy. The Pakistani authorities' decision to disrupt X remains unexplained, further escalating tensions amidst the existing political turmoil caused by the elections. Time now to shift focus away from Pakistan to OpenAI. Sam Altman's OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT, which also released Sora, an artificial intelligence model capable of generating lifelike videos lasting up to 60 seconds from user-provided text inputs. The company's CEO Sam Altman showcased many of these AI-generated videos on his social media handle on X, formerly known as Twitter. This began a discussion across social media platforms regarding the capabilities of this latest technology. Amidst the debate, Elon Musk CEO of Tesla and previously affiliated with the Microsoft-backed company, revealed that his electric vehicle company has been producing real-world videos for approximately a year. Musk replied, stating, and I quote, "I have wanted to do that for a long time. Our real-world simulation and video generation is the best in the world, but unfortunately, making a game can only come after we release unsupervised FSD that is far safer than even supervised FSD." And keeping into the world of technology, chipmaker NVIDIA continued its unstoppable rise, hitting a market value in excess of $1.8 trillion. And we'll take a look at that and the roundup of some of the other big stories in the world of business, technology, and finance in this report. Take a look.
From the rise and rise of NVIDIA to a costly typo at Lyft, this is the week in numbers. Just over $1.8 trillion was the market value hit by the AI chip champion NVIDIA on Wednesday. That put it ahead of Google parent Alphabet as the third most valuable firm in the US. Only Microsoft and Apple are worth more, with the Windows maker in top spot at over $3 trillion. 500 basis points is how much Lyft said a key profit margin metric would rise. Only, oops, that was a typo, and the real figure was 50. The mistake sparked a rollercoaster ride for the stock and could leave the ride-hailing app facing legal action from investors who got burned. Summit Place President Liz Miller says it's an unprecedented error.
I can't remember in my career seeing that kind of mistake in a major company's earnings release.
0.4% was the surprise drop in Japanese GDP over the latest quarter, when analysts had predicted a solid increase. The fall for a second straight quarter put the country in recession. It also saw Japan lose its title as the world's third biggest economy, with Germany overtaking. $1 trillion is the total value now invested in Bitcoin. The number hits that level for the first time since late 2021. Helped by flows of cash into new US exchange-traded funds featuring the e-money. And 21 million is how many PlayStation consoles Sony now thinks it will sell over the full year. That's a big cut from earlier estimates, and comes after disappointing holiday season sales. A week earlier, rival Nintendo actually raised forecasts for its aging Switch console.
Away from that, let's now take a look at all the big news from the world of business and finance that are set to happen over the course of this week that you should watch out for.
From the anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine to NVIDIA's continued role as the main character, these are the stories to watch in business and finance. February 24th marks 2 years since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Aside from the human tragedy, the rebuilding cost alone is now estimated to have reached almost $500 billion. While markets have long overcome their initial panic, the political and economic impact is still being felt. Fears of a global recession seem to have fallen away, mostly because the U.S. economy has proven so resilient. The U.S. and Eurozone PMIs hit 6-month highs in January. And emerging markets outside China, notably India and the Middle East, are strong. Business activity data out globally from Thursday should give a better picture of what's happening beyond the U.S. Markets in China return from the Lunar New Year holiday on Monday, and investors will be watching what Beijing does next to shore up its battered stock market. A decision from the Bank of China on its benchmark lending rates is expected. Home prices land on Friday, which will show just how deep the downturn in the property sector is. NVIDIA reports quarterly earnings on February 21st. After its stock more than tripled in 2023, the chipmaker at the center of AI excitement has seen its shares soar another roughly 50% so far this year. Such mammoth stock gains stand to raise the bar for its results, and any disappointment potentially has a broad market fallout given the company's growing heft.
Shifting focus away from that to the over 1,600 jobs that are being cut at sportswear giant Nike, as the company is looking to cut costs amid challenges like higher rentals for its stores, properties, and of course high interest rates. Now also decreased orders from retailers and competition from brands like Hoka and On Holding have also contributed to this decision. Nike has outlined a $2 billion savings plan, with these layoffs expected to primarily affect corporate positions, excluding in-store distribution centers and innovation teams. Take a look at this detailed Reuters report. In a move to strengthen US's domestic supply chain, the Biden administration has announced that the US government is granting $1.5 billion to global foundries for the expansion of semiconductor production in America. As part of the plan to bolster global foundries, the administration will also make available another $1.6 billion in federal loans. Now, these grants are expected to triple the company's production capacity in the state of New York over the next 10 years. Take a look at this Reuters report.
The US government is awarding $1.5 billion to chipmaker Global Foundries in a bid to boost domestic semiconductor production. That's according to the Biden administration on Monday. Global Foundries, the world's third largest contract chipmaker, will build a new manufacturing facility in Malta, New York, as well as expand existing operations there and in Burlington, Vermont, according to a preliminary agreement with the Commerce Department. The grant will be accompanied by $1.6 billion in available loans, with the funding expected to generate $12.5 billion in overall potential investment across the two states. Biden administration officials said the projects, funded under the CHIPS and Science Act, would generate more than 10,000 jobs over a decade. The chips, as small as a fingernail, are used in a whole host of fields, including satellite and space communications and the defense industry, officials said. That's as well as in everyday applications such as blind spot detection and collision warnings in cars and electric vehicles, along with Wi-Fi and cellular connections. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo told reporters that Global Foundries semiconductors are, quote, essential chips to our national security. She added that Malta's facility will now provide supplies to General Motors, helping to combat chip shortages that kept millions of cars from being manufactured during the global health crisis. According to Raimondo, this is the government's third chips announcement, and her department plans to make several imminent funding awards from the government's $39 billion program to expand semiconductor manufacturing.
Car makers in the US may see a slower push to go all green as the Biden administration plans to ease tough emissions targets. Last year's proposed 56% reduction in new vehicle emissions by the year 2032 and a 60% electric vehicle sales target by the year 2030 faced opposition from major companies and labor unions in the US. This Reuters report tells you all about it.
Car makers may not have to go green quite so fast in the U.S. Reuters sources say the Biden administration is set to water down tough targets set for cutting emissions. Last year, the Environmental Protection Agency had proposed requiring a 56% reduction in new vehicle emissions by 2032, and automakers would have been required to aim for 60% of their sales being electric vehicles by 2030. Those proposals were met with pushback from big firms as well as labor unions. A trade body representing General Motors, Ford, and other giants called the targets neither reasonable nor achievable. The Union of Auto Workers called for the measures to be phased in more gradually. It argues that the infrastructure is not in place for the mass adoption of EVs, which it says are also still too costly for many consumers. Washington appears to have listened. The Reuters sources say the EPA will now slow the pace of new emissions requirements. They say its new proposals could be made public as soon as next month. Environmental rules have emerged as a political battleground, with former Republican President Donald Trump arguing that green targets threaten auto industry jobs. Even so, the UAW has recently endorsed Joe Biden for this year's presidential election.
The sports streaming collaboration announced with much fanfare between Disney, Fox, and Warner Bros. Discovery is now facing scrutiny from the U.S. Department of Justice, according to media reports in the U.S. This joint streaming service aimed at younger viewers boasts of rights to many professional as well as college sporting leagues as well. Take a look at this report.
The sports streaming team-up between Disney, Fox, and Warner Bros. Discovery is set to be scrutinized by the U.S. Department of Justice. That's according to a report by Bloomberg Law on Thursday. The report cited two sources close to the matter that say the DOJ is concerned a platform from the three entertainment giants could harm consumers, sports leagues, and competitors. The report also cites the sources saying the Justice Department will review the deal's terms once it's finalized. The joint sports service was announced earlier this month, planned for an autumn launch. They say it will be targeted at younger viewers. The companies have rights to a wide range of professional and college sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, FIFA World Cup, and college competitions. Fubo, a sports-focused streaming service, called for scrutiny of the new joint venture soon after it was announced. In a statement, Fubo highlighted the media partner's significant market share, reportedly some 60 to 85% of all sports content. Fubo declined to comment on Thursday. Fox, Warner Bros. Discovery, and Disney could not be immediately reached for comment, while the Justice Department declined to comment.
Away from the US and US media to China, where tourism revenues in China during the Lunar New Year holidays that ended on Saturday last week surged by over 47% year on year. The surge not only exceeded the previous year but also surpassed 2019 levels as well, signaling a domestic travel boom with a push by an extended holiday period in China. This Reuters report tells you all about it.
The massive crowds in Shanghai railway station ahead of this year's Spring Festival holiday speak to what Chinese officials said on Sunday ended up being a surge in travel spending over the Lunar New Year to levels even higher than before COVID. It's likely a welcome sign for Beijing as the Chinese economy loses steam. The holiday is the busiest yearly travel migration in the world. And by the end of the 8-day span on Saturday, 474 million tourist trips were made, up 34% from the same time a year ago. Millions of migrants have since returned to major cities like Shanghai or Beijing after reuniting with family in hometowns.
It was really crowded this year. It felt like it was the first time for me to experience the Spring Festival rush thoroughly.
Chinese officials say not only was tourism spending up by around 50% over 2023, it was up 7% over this time in 2019 before the pandemic. Revenue per trip, though, has remained below pre-COVID levels. One of the most popular activities during this year's holiday was watching films. China's box office revenue exceeded over $1 billion over the 8 days, a new record high. The figures are likely a relief for policymakers as China grapples with multiple challenges, including a plunging stock market and declining property values, and as consumer prices fell furthest since the 2009 recession last month. It's pushing authorities to cut interest rates in an attempt to spark growth and revive an economy low on confidence and facing spiraling deflation.
Keeping it with China's challenge to Airbus and Boeing-made aircraft. The C919 has made its debut outside of China at the Singapore Air Show, manufactured by Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China, or COMAC. This narrow-body jet was showcased alongside other planes and aerial displays. Now, Chinese exhibitors marked their first appearance at this event, signaling China's push to compete globally in aviation.
China's challenger to Airbus and Boeing's passenger jets made its first trip outside Chinese territory on Sunday as it staged a flyby at the Singapore Air Show. The narrow-body C919 is made by the Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China, or COMAC. It was one of two commercial planes flying at the airshow's media preview on Sunday, which also featured aerobatics by teams from the South Korean, Indian and Indonesian air forces. According to the Singapore Economic Development Board, it's the first time Chinese exhibitors have taken part in the biennial show. It's also the first major international industry event since last month's blowout of a door plug on a 737 MAX 9 pushed Boeing into yet another safety crisis. China has invested heavily to try and break the grip Airbus and Boeing have on the global market. With the two Western playmakers struggling to meet production demand and Boeing ensnared in a string of crises, the aviation industry is watching how COMAC positions itself as a viable alternative. China has signaled plans for a push to boost the C919 and its maker's footprint domestically and internationally this year. The first of now 4 C919s began flying with China Eastern Airlines last year. So far, it's only certified within China. But the country's aviation authority said last month it would try and get the C919 validated this year by the European Union's regulator after starting the process in 2018. According to Chinese media reports, a COMAC official said in January the company will invest tens of billions of yuan to expand C919 production capacity over the next 3 to 5 years.
Shifting focus to the world of movies and entertainment, where premiering at the Berlin Film Festival, actor Mati Diop's documentary Dahomey is vying for the top Golden Bear Best Film Award at this year's Berlinale. This documentary spotlights the repatriation of 26 royal treasures from the Kingdom of Dahomey, located in Benin in Africa. Take a look at this.
Franco-Senegalese filmmaker and actor Mati Diop premiered her new documentary, Dahomey, at the Berlin Film Festival on Sunday. It is a film focused on this moment: the repatriation of 26 royal treasures from the Kingdom of Dahomey, located in present-day Benin, in November 2021. They were taken in 1892 from Benin's palaces of Abomey, today a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and were on display in Paris alongside thousands of African treasures looted during colonial rule. The restitution was the largest made by France to a former colony. However, it only represents a fraction of the 5,000 works whose return is being sought by Benin, and the tens of thousands of seized African works held in France. Diop's film explores the reception and debate over the restitution in the artifact's country of origin. It is also a follow-up to her feature film debut, Atlantics, a ghost story about migrants that won the Cannes Film Festival's runner-up Grand Prix Award in 2019. Dahomey is one of 20 titles vying for the top Golden Bear Best Film Award at this year's Berlinale. The winner will be announced in a gala ceremony on Saturday.
And that's all we have time for on this edition of World Business Report. Thank you so much for watching. This is Krishna Kumar signing off. Keep it with News 9 Live.